بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We begin inshallah today discussing the chapter that deals with Zakatul Fitr or Sadaqatul Fitri, and this is a special payment that is paid to the poor at the end of the month of Ramadan. And the Prophet ﷺ described it as a means of purification, and it is also considered to be given something to the poor so that they would not feel sad on the day of Eid. It would at least be a sort of compensation to them on the day of Eid, because they do not have enough money to be happy, they do not have enough money to buy clothes. So Islam instructed us to be with them and to give them something so that at least on the day of Eid they don't beg people for anything, especially for food. And we have Hadith 175. Who will read it to us? Yes, brother.
Narrated Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, Allah's Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam enjoined payment of Sadaqatul Fitr, or he said, Ramadan, on male and female, and on free and slave Muslims, 1 sa of dates or 1 sa of barley. The people gave half a sa of wheat every young and old individual. In another narration, to be given before the people go to the Eid prayer.
In this hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, he called it Sadaqatul Fitri, or of Ramadan. Sadaqat Ramadan, which indicates that it's to be given only in Ramadan. And the one who mandated it, the one who had enjoined this payment, is the Prophet ﷺ. And he clearly stated that it should be given as 1 sa'. And we've said that the sa' is a means of measurement by size or weight? By size. And a sa' is made of 4 mud. And a mud is what gathers in your 2 hands. So if I do this, this is a mud. The Prophet used to perform wudu with 1 mud, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So what type of food should I give out? In the hadith of Ibn Umar, the Prophet said alayhi salatu wasalam, it should be either from dates or from barley. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam enjoined it that we pay it for all, whether male or female, whether slave or free. So there is no difference between the genders in paying this zakat, and there is no difference whether it's a free person or a slave, and there's no difference whether it is young or old. The dispute among scholars is regarding if a woman is pregnant. So should I give Zakatul Fitri for her pregnancy as well? The majority of scholars say no, but this is recommended because Uthman ibn Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, the 3rd Caliph, used to take the zakat on the pregnancy as well. But it is not mandatory, because it is not possible to know whether he is or it is going to be alive after birth or not, and therefore no rulings follow that. The following hadith, hadith number 176, we need someone to read it.
Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, in the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we used to give 1 sa' of food, or 1 sa' of dates, or 1 sa' of barley, or 1 sa' of aqid, dried milk, or 1 sa' of raisins, dried grapes, as Sadaqatul Fitr. And when Muawiyah became the Caliph, and the wheat was there. He said, I think, observe, that 1 mud of wheat equaled 2 muds of any of the above mentioned things. Abu Sa'id said, as for me, I will continue to give it as I used to at the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Praise and peace be upon him.
This hadith is similar to Abdullah ibn Umar's hadith, but with an extra different types of food. And not only that, Abu Sa'id, may Allah be pleased with him, said that the Prophet ﷺ, at his time, we used to give out Zakatul Fitr, 1 sa' of food. And from this, the scholars say that it is permissible to give 1 sa' of what the people in your country consider to be food. So if they consider rice to be their main dish, so give 1 sa' of rice. If they consider beans, for example, their food, then so be it, and so on. And then Abu Sa'id lists a number of different types of food that you can give as Zakat al-Fitr. He mentioned aqit. And what is aqit? It is dried milk. The Arabs used to take the milk and dry it, and then they can take it with them when they travel. It becomes something or a food that can be taken. Raisins as well. Raisins are dried grapes and dates, as we know. They can be considered to be fruit, but because they have the characteristic of being dried and stored for long times, then this is also zakatable. Abu Sa'id tells us that when Muawiyah, may Allah be pleased with him, became caliph, he addressed the people and said, these types we have, I see in my own opinion that 1 mud of wheat is equivalent to 2 muds of these types mentioned. Why? Because at the time wheat was very luxurious. It was a delicacy. It wasn't easy to find, it wasn't easy to grow, and once you have it, it is very important, and people like to eat wheat or make breads, and you know the usages of it. So Muawiyah, may Allah be pleased with him, said that I feel that Zakat al-Fitr has to be sa' of everything except of wheat. You can have 2 muds or half a sa'. This is his ijtihad. Now, is he one of the 4 rightly guided caliphs? No. So this means that we do not have to follow his sunnah. Though he's a companion, one of the great companions of the Prophet ﷺ, yet when he goes against the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, we stick with the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is exactly what Abu Sa'id al-Khudri said. He said, although Muawiyah said so and so, until today I will only give 1 sa'. And this is the right and the most authentic opinion, that you give 1 sa' of that. Now, when is the time to give Zakatul Fitri? Scholars say it is a must that you give it before the prayer of Eid. If you give it after the prayer of Eid, this is not acceptable. Unlike the prayer of Adha. If you slaughter before the prayer of Eid, your slaughter is not accepted, and if you slaughter after the prayer, it is accepted. So the consensus is you have to give it before prayer of Eid. And they differed, the scholars. Some say you can give it from the beginning of Ramadan. Others say you can give it from the middle of Ramadan. And the most authentic opinion is that you can give it 2 or 3 days max before the end of Ramadan. Because this is the doing of Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with the man, with his father. He said that we used to give Zakatul Fitri 2 days to 3 days before the prayer of Eid. And this is the most likely authentic opinion, simply because if you come and look at our times now, just before the prayer of Eid is a very little time, and most likely you will not be able to find people to give them zakatul fitr. So you will be cornered and you will be stuck with your zakat and you're not able to give it to anyone. Therefore 2 days to 3 days is permissible. One may ask, what about the rulings on giving it to organization, charity organization or Islamic organizations that take it from the beginning of the month, yet they say we will only pay it to the poor on the 28th or on the 29th of Ramadan? The ruling is okay, because you're giving them power of attorney to give it out on that particular day, not before. So your payment, whether it's in the beginning of Ramadan, in the middle of the year, no problem, as long as they give it out a day or two before the prayer or a day or two before Eid. Now, one would ask and say, what's the ruling on me giving the poor money instead of food? Some scholars say that this is permissible, and this is the opinion of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on his soul. And they say that this is more beneficial for the poor from eating this food. We have a break. Stay tuned and inshallah we'll... Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So, Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on his soul, says that it is permissible to give money instead of food in zakatul fitr. And the majority of scholars say that this is not acceptable. Why? Because it was the Prophet who enjoined sallallahu alaihi wasallam food. And if you look at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, did they have currency at the time? They had dinar and dirham. Dinar was made of gold and dirham was made of silver, and they used to have their transactions with it. We have a number of hadiths that they used to pay and buy things with it. So it is a fact that the Prophet ﷺ, though they had money, yet he instructed his companions to give food. Therefore, if you give a poor person $1,000 on zakatul fitri, this would not be accepted as zakatul fitr. You have to give him food. Why? They said because this is something you worship Allah with. It is not something to apply your logic. And they said, as you remember, 1 sa' is measurement of size. So if I bring 1 sa' of barley, 1 sa' of dates, 1 sa' of aqt, 1 sa' of raisins, and I evaluate each one, would it be the same price? Would this be 10, 10, 10? No, the value, the price differs. So they said the Prophet ﷺ would not order us to give the zakatul fitr in food when it's different in value, except because food is the one that you must pay. There is a hadith that the Prophet said ﷺ said, prevent your brothers from begging on that day. So the food is to prevent them from begging for food if they are really and truly needy. And having said that, there is no problem at all to give the food with extra cash. What prevents you from doing this? So I give 1 sa' on my behalf to the poor, and I give him 10 riyals, 20 riyals on top as sadaqah, as charity. This is a good deed. But to give him money without food, this is not permissible. Now, you calculate the amount of the people in your house and you give 1 sa' for each and every one. But do I give the whole bundle to a number of people equivalent to my family members, or can I give it to one person? The answer is you can give it to one person alone. And this is found in Islam. There are things that you must give to a specific number of people, regardless of the quantity of food. And there is a certain quantity of food to be given regardless the number of people. And there are things that are open. You just have to feed a particular number of people regardless of the weight. For example, in expiation, when you do something wrong in Umrah, in your Ihram, what is the expiation if you do something you're not supposed to do, such as clipping your nails or putting perfume or wearing shirts or undergarments? The expiation is one of three. Either you slaughter a sheep, or you feed 6 poor people half a sa' each. Half a sa' each. Or you fast 3 days. So here we have half a sa', the quantity is designated, and the number of poor is designated. So if I bring half a sa', multiply by 6 is 3. I have to give 3 sa'as. If I take 3 sa'as and I give it to one poor person, is it enough? No. It has to be 6 of them. Another example is Allah Azza wa Jal ordered us in Surah Al-Ma'idah, whenever we break an oath, we have to give expiation. What is the expiation? Feed 10 people of the middle of what you eat, or clothe them, or slaughter a sheep. If you're unable, fast 3 days. So I have a choice. Now, Allah Azza wa Jal told me to feed how many? 10 people. What's the quantity? Allah did not disclose this for me. So I can feed them anything. Half a sa', quarter of a sa', a full sa', providing it's a meal that is sufficient for them. But they have to be 10 people. So I can't bring a bundle of food and I give it to 5 people and I say that this is double, 2 meals for you, 2 meals for you. No, it has to be 10 separate people. So the quantity is not disclosed, but the number of people is important. The last, and well, this is third type of it, there is an expiation that is feeding one poor person. In this, the quantity is disclosed, but the number of recipients is not. And that is why the scholars say, if I collect Zakatul Fitr and my family member are 10, and I get 10 sa'as, the Prophet did not tell us give it to how many. If I take all of these 10 sa'as and I give it to one individual, this is acceptable. And this is acceptable if everyone gives it to the same individual, but until he reaches the level where he is not poor anymore, then khalas. If everybody gives it to the same poor person, he's rich now. So this is what scholars say that must be done in this regard. Do we have any questions? Yes, brother there.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Sheikh, my question is that can we give cooked food as Sadaqatul Fitr?
Can we give cooked food as Sadaqatul Fitri? The answer is no. Because the food that can be used is the food that can be stored. And cooked food, as you know, you cannot store it. If you don't use it today, it will become rotten. So it has to be the food that can be stored, and it has to be the food that can be measured by size or by weight, as scholars say. And that's why we cannot give Zakatul Fitri as fruit. You know, you go to the poor and give him a kilo or 2 kilos of strawberry. What will he do with strawberries? This is not permissible. And one would say, how much is a sa'? It differs depending on the substance, because if you have a size of a sa', if you put dates, it's going to weigh differently than if you put wheat. So scholars say that the average, if you are going to give zakat in rice, for example, it should be approximately 2 kilograms and 40 grams. 2.04. So even if you give 2.5 just to be on the safe side, 2.5 kilos, this is enough of rice on every individual.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Sheikh, my question is that, is there any nisab, just as the obligatory zakat al-lunar here, is there any nisab for Sadaqatul Fitr?
The scholars say, who is entitled to give Zakatul Fitr? They said anyone who has the food of one full day and has surplus, he has to give the surplus as Zakatul Fitr. For example, if I'm a poor person and I have 5 sa' of food, which is about 10 kilograms of rice in my house, nothing else. Scholars say I have to give zakat al-fitr. Take 1 sa' and give it away. Why? They said because if you're poor, people will give you. But if I do not have except half a sa', or if I have only 1 sa', which is enough for today, they said this is the only person who does not have to pay zakat. So literally speaking, approximately everyone has to pay zakat al-fitr. But if he's in need, the 1 sa' you give away, you'll get tens and tens more, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.
Suppose we go to Umrah, and can we pay zakat al-fitr here in India?
The scholars differed regarding paying the zakat in somewhere that you're not in. And the most authentic opinion is whenever there is a need, it is permissible to pay the zakat elsewhere. But whenever there isn't a need, the place you're in is the one that you should pay the zakat, is the one that you should slaughter your sacrifice. So if you know that, wallahi, I live in Saudi Arabia and the people around me are not so needy as I know them back home. No, in this case, it is permissible for you to pay the zakat over there, inshallah. Let's say.
Sheikh, if someone missed paying his zakat al-fitr, maybe for the past 5 years or 3 years, so how should he rectify that? Does he go and pay, or else he just asks forgiveness?
Some scholars say that if a person did not pay zakat al-fitr on time, he must pay it after the prayer, but it would not be considered as zakat al-fitr, but rather as a punishment and a charity. So this is most likely the most authentic opinion. Its time is gone, so you cannot rectify it, but you have to pay it still as a form of seeking Allah's forgiveness, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.
If we have given our zakat money to someone to give it to some, he's out, so we pay our salah here, but he's paying it later on. What would we do at that time?
This is permissible if his prayer is before my prayer. Because if I give someone the zakat al-fitr to give it and distribute it in his country, my Eid is on Saturday and his Eid is on Sunday. So if I pray Eid and he did not distribute it, this means that I did not distribute my zakat al-fitr. But if his Eid is before me, his Eid is on Friday, so he will give it on Friday or on Thursday at most, and my Eid is on Saturday, this is okay. So the payment of the zakat should be before my Eid prayer. I'm afraid that this is all the time we have. Until we meet next time, fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.